We're now talking to Professor Françoise Sabban, Director of Studies at School of Advanced Studies in the Social Sciences. We're talking about her paper, Food as a Topic for Writers, Journalists, and YouTubers, from a pastime to a professional activity. And in this paper, she discusses a very interesting theme, 美食家, in literary food writings in 20th century China. Thank you for being with us today. So I have quite a lot of questions for you regarding some of the details of the paper, but I guess I'm going to start with the more general question. So what is the main objective that you want to achieve in the paper? So what is the general theme that you address in here? Yeah.
In fact, this paper is a kind of continuation of a reflection on the way some writers and some journalists and some authors write about gastronomic issues, and how this genre of literature evolves in China after the economic reform in the 80s. So I tried to study some texts dealing with food published after the 80s, and for me it was very the first time when I began to work on that topic, it was because I wanted to see how this kind of writing contribute to the rebirth of an economic sector, which is food, the food sector in China after the reform, and how it was utilized. Yes, it was a kind of instrumental way for the Chinese government to promote the rebirth and the revival of Chinese activities on food, and especially to help in giving more value to cooking as an art, in fact, as an art and as culture and as something very more not so humble. Of course, it is about high cuisine, I would say, grande cuisine, as we say in France, which is the cooking made by chefs and cooks, the professional cooking in the catering industry. That was my main my focus for this research. But in fact, doing this work, I evolved and I changed a little my interest, and because of one book which appears in 1983, which is a novel by Lu and Fu titled Chenjia Xu, which is translated into English as The Gourmet. It could have been also translated as The Gastronome, but maybe the word gastronome in English is not so common as in French, because in French the right term is gastronome, because gastronome is a kind of specialist in writing, in knowing good taste, knowing how to appreciate good taste, but also for some of them in the ability to write about food. That's the how we usually define a gastronome in the French food activity. So and I discover that this novel has in a way upset the way authors and other writers write about food and how they express themselves about the appreciation of food, because the term suddenly was used by everybody of this kind of people who writes about food, and they there are some who said that they were méchetiers, they were gastronomes, and others who said, no, I am not a méchetier, and I am not a gastronome. So for me, this word was very interesting because it is an invention by Lu Wenfu. It's a neologism. It did not exist before the publication, the edition of the book. So it's so strange that every people who wanted to have a gastronomic activity in writing claim to be or not to be a méchetier. So it's the question in my text, to be or not to be a méchetier. So there is no answer to this question.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I tried to examine why some wanted to be a méchetier and other did not want to be a méchetier. It seems that the term has the opposite meanings, and that was my main interest in that text. So it was not so it was the result of an evolution in my research to write this talk for the conference. So it is not finished. I want because there is still the same question. Why
Mm-hmm.
such? Why to be or not to be a méchetier is so important for them?
Mm-hmm. I think yeah, there's in part you also answered to the question with the details you provide. It seems that there is the question leads to a distinction between 美食家 as a profession, which is sort of looked down upon, and 美食家 as a general disposition, as a way of life, and also this elevation of being not just about food, but being able to write about food is very important for at least some people to associate them comfortably with the term 美食家. Otherwise, it's not a really good term for the more intellectual ones, I
Yes,
guess.
true.
Yeah, I think it's really resonates really well with the theme of Lu Wenfu's novel, which is it's sort of that, like, in the novel he mentioned that quite a lot of times in different ways, that everyone's equal in terms of the taste.
Yes,
Everyone's being able to tell
to be
the
able
good taste from the bad,
to,
but not everyone has the ability to
right.
convey that in writing, and that is very important to what it means to be a 美食家, at least for the very intellectual ones. So I guess my question is, would it be easier for these people if 美食家 was replaced by 老饕?
Yes,
You know.
yes. Lato, I did not really see this term in their text, but maybe there is. I saw Tautier,
Mm-hmm.
the same meaning, about the same meaning as Lao Tao, and some of them say that they are yes, of course there are also Taotier, or like comment il s'appelle déjà, Shen Hongfei. Shen Hongfei, he says that he is especially Chan Shizhi,
Mm-hmm.
one who likes to eat, but in fact, he said that because he wanted also to show off because he's very cultivated. Shen Rongfei is rather cultivated, and he also wants to show that he knows Marcel Proust, that he knows Bertolt Brecht. And when I say Marcel Proust, he exactly knows the famous story about the Madeleine of Marcel Proust. And I don't know if his readers all know this kind of references, because, and he has a lot of course, Chinese references too. But he says, I am somebody, I am a man who likes to eat, and who is very, very greedy. But I think it's a manner, it's a manner of speaking, of, in fact, he wants to write and to show that he knows how to write well. That's one of the most important in his activity. Of course, eating is very important, because recently I show a little film. I watched a little film on him on television, a television show with him. He has put weight on. Now he's very big. I saw him eating, and it's true that he likes to eat a lot and that he's very greedy. But first of all, is a gastronomic critic and gastronomic journalist. I don't know now, because he was working in Canton, and now he's back to Beijing, so I don't know exactly his life. But and for him, being a Meishitia is not so important to say that he's a Meishitia. He's not a Meishitia, he says, not totally a Meishitia. I am somebody who likes to eat and who excel, who know how to write about eating and food.
So basically, this title doesn't mean that much to him, because he defines himself in both terms of the ability to taste and also the knowledge of taste and the ability of writing about taste.
Yes.
And I think another thing I pick up from the writing, which I find really interesting, is the tension in the prefaces of the iTunes anthology. One by Wang Lang, which is Wang Zhenqi's son, and one by himself. It sort of reveals truly what is at stake for this 美食家 title. It's almost like a title that the people who qualified for it doesn't want, but people who doesn't qualify it really want to, put it under his name, that sort of thing. So the later discussion also seems to suggest that there is some sort of consensus regarding what it actually means, what it actually takes to be a 美食家. It's just that those who doesn't really qualify and but still wants to be a 美食家 but get mocked upon, like in a very subtle and confusing way, huh?
Yes, it's exactly that. And it is why it is funny in a way to see this distortion, as you pointed it. This iTunes wants to be a 美食家, a double 美食家. That's very funny. So I am in fact, he says I am a very greedy, so I am a 美食家 as a pastime, as how to say that? Yes, as a pastime, because I like to eat, I like to be with my friend and share good food and so on, and drink and so on. But for my professional activity, I am a very serious 美食家. So he says I am two in one, two gastronomes in one. And of course, I prefer the one who is not professional. But to earn my living, I am a serious gastronome. It's very funny, I think. And
I think yeah, it's especially funny because that in the book his own preface actually comes after Wang Lang's face, which sort of is a kind of a very sophisticated rebuttal of his claim to be like this double 美食家. Yeah, that's one of the highlights of the paper. I think is really teases out the tension and also this kind of almost like a hierarchy going on
Yes, yes, yes.
within the circle. Yeah.
Yes,
Um,
yes, I think there is a hierarchy, of course, but it's a very I just make this kind of hierarchy, but it must be it should be worked better with other people, other writers, and so on. But it seems that really Dai Chun does not belong to the how to define the respected
mm,
who writes authors who know and who think of themselves as being really how to say that, as being really good for writing about food, like of course Wang Long and his father, of course, because they are real writers. They are not only Meshetia in the sense, in the meaning of Dai Chun. And I'm not sure, but I got the impression that to go to the university to get a university degree for these people is very important. Because of course I don't know which kind of training he got, but not a university training, I think. And this is also very important for them to judge him as yes, as a Meshetia, but not in the good sense, I would say, in the good meaning, in the noble meaning of that qualification.
I think there is I think in Chinese there's a old saying of men of letters despise each other. 文人相亲. They just see it doesn't. Yeah, they just doesn't like each other. And I'm not sure if there's some similar sentiments going on among these 美食家 writers. I think that has to leave to more research on your part, or well, just more research on anyone's part. I do have a final question regarding the sort of the later part in the title, because we have been talking mainly about the 美食家, the authors, the writers, and towards the end of the paper, you start talking about that the old tradition of 美食家 writings have given way to new trend of 美食博主.
Yes.
So it's like anyone can sort of do a video and then post pictures or videos of cooking and food. But I wonder to what extent are they drastically different from the older medium of 美食家, because but to me it's almost like it might seem that the entry barrier for entering into this literary or discursive sphere is lower, but actually to become as successful as Li Ziqi, you need to be good at taking the videos. You need to be good at, selecting the scenes and putting up the right composition and the good editing and the storyline. It's not as easy as it seems. Yeah. So I wonder.
I totally agree with you, because when I saw your question, I thought about that. Exactly, you are right. The distinction of Li Ziqi is not only on yes, of course, it's not on writing, because she does not speak and there is no words in her film. It's the distinction and the refinement is, of course, on her environment, of her
Mm,
clothes, of the way she acts, because she's very elegant, and of
mm,
course of the making of the film. So I know now, I've made a very little research on her, and I know that she now has a team to make the film, the video, because it's clear
mm,
that she could not do such a she could not reach such a perfection without being helped,
mm,
of course. But let me ask you something about this phenomenon, because as I say in my article, it's for me really, Li is a phenomenon. I already asked other Chinese colleagues, and they told me, no, it's true. It's she is doing herself these kind of things, and so on. It's authentic. It's genuine. So, what do you think of this person, of this woman, and on her activity? In fact, what do you think?
um, um, I mean, I'm not very familiar with her production, but I did write about a very similar crew. And I think they're real, but they're believable, but also they are emphasizing particular messages. They're creating particular messages, like the production I wrote about, which is set in the urban area. It's set in a completely urban setting. But you can see that other than the filter is different, the music, the vibe, the music they use, and the lack of a language, the lack of subtitles are very similar. They create this very slow and soothing atmosphere with the sound, with the color, with the composition, and with the music. And food becomes a sort of a trope to portray an ideal life.
Mm.
So it doesn't matter whether it is real or not. I mean, I believe that it's their life, but once you portray it, it's just like writing about what you eat. You have so many different ways of writing what you eat for a day, taking picture. They are faithful. They are faithful depictions, but also they're more than faithful depictions. They create this kind of discursive
Yes.
realm for you to imagine things differently. Like in Li Ziqi, I think the message that's sending from the whole production is that life is good when it's away from the city,
Mm.
when it's traditional. So it sort of taps into this group of people who are longing for a getaway from urban life. And whereas in the production I was writing about, it's called the Cat's Kitchen. I think it's also on the website of the conference. It's in the media resources. I think the idea is that even though you are living in a very crowded and busy paced city, you can still have a life that is good and that is beautiful, and that life is for yourself only, because that production really emphasizes, even if you're just by yourself, you should make food for yourself.
Mm.
Like eat a good life is by oneself, of oneself, and for oneself. And that's just my sort of reading of that production. Yeah. So
Mm.
to in a nutshell, I don't think it's fake or anything. It's believable, it's realistic. It's I don't know if it's authentic, but it could be her real life. But what matters is really the sort of an ideal life that she's depicting through the camera work, the cinematography of the videos. And yeah, and that, I think for me, that's what's interesting to analyze that, how she uses the camera, the color to convey different meanings, almost like tapping into the film studies sort of analysis, which is similar for us to do close reading of texts, but
Yes,
it's just
yes,
different
yes.
media.
Well,
Yeah.
I know nothing about analyzing video or film. It's really a specialty, a specialty. So I know nothing about that. I was a very naive
spectator of this kind of film, and I really admire the film made by Lizzie because they are beautiful. It's really artistic, really artistic.
Yeah.
And also, it's true that it's a way to express aesthetics with food matters in another way than writing about it. So that's why I was so attracted by this kind of films.
I mean, it's nice to look at.
Mm.
It's better than a lot of TV news to look at.
Yes.
At least, to say the least, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all the questions I have for you for this interview, and you have given us a lot of interesting materials to discuss and to
it was
translate upon.
nice to exchange with you.